He's a brawler though,
He,
bro.
do- he, do-
He ain't a boxer. There's a difference.
But
He ain't gonna go rack up points on the scorecard.
we
yeah,
are now.
yeah. We gonna hop right into it.
We are. We already been at it for about 5-10 minutes.
Yeah, man. We talking about boxing, and we're talking about. He said Deontay Wilder's not a star.
I didn't say that. He said
Oh,
I
Pink
said
said that.
I said he's not a star.
But how?
Actually, to be fair, it was superstar.
yeah, it was
And
a
I
star.
was-
Superstar.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, a superstar is like a transcendent guy that we're going to remember for a long time. For me, Wilder made his way up to the Fury fight, and he basically lost to the same guy 3 times.
So-
And it's like, there's no, like, where does he go from here?
But it's kind of like Rocky and Apollo Creed, kind of. It's like that's all they had to fight. That's the only thing left.
Well, see, that's where I think that there's an issue, because I think you can look at it and say, well, hey, those are the only marketable fights. But for the health of the sport, you got to the sport has to cultivate other people to create a buzz, create an excitement, so you have more than one guy to fight.
True, but that's why Deontay Wilder. The only reason that fight exists is because he has a superstar name. And he has the superstar fist. Probably not the technical skill.
But I think that's the problem. Like if he had won 1 out of the 3 fights with Fury, like we could say that. But I think what happens is he was basically exposed to be a one-trick pony, and thus not like really a great fighter that we're gonna look at and say, man, that was a superstar.
Some of our great fighters were one-trick ponies, though.
Like
He's
who?
one of them. Well, maybe that's a broad statement, but I think that he is a one-trick pony that is a superstar. He's a transcendent talent with that fist.
I'm gonna call him a superstar too. It makes a comeback.
Yeah.
But welcome back to On the Bench with Bubba and Pink. Bubba is where the hell is Bubba at?
Bubba's on a cruise.
Yo, Bubba just be doing single people's. Why are you on a cruise, Bubba? You are not 55 years old.
Only old people go on cruises?
What cruise is he on? Where does he go?
I don't know where. I assume you just go out and maybe hit.
He went to Mexico on a cruise.
I don't know if it's just Mexico. But
That's not a cruise. That's
last night he was in Mexico.
I thought the cruise you just kind of hit a couple islands and come home.
but,
Who knows what kind of cruise Bubba's on?
yeah, he might be on one of the what's the place where people go and have sex? No, this Hedonist island.
Hedonism. That's like a resort,
Hedonism.
though.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
you go. That's not a cruise.
I don't know how you know that, Pink.
I've been there, bro.
I know a
It's
thing or
best to
two.
just-
Like,
it's best to just
I've been on a boat.
when you pod, you have to pretend not to know all the details. You're just like, ain't this like a sex place? He's like, no, it's hedonist. It's in December.
Here's the
It's on-
address. You want me to book your reservation? Yeah.
Hey, but speaking of fights, Pink.
Yeah.
So the Warriors played the Timberwolves last night,
Yeah.
and a minute and 50 seconds into the game, or was it a minute and 30 seconds into the game, 4 people get ejected.
4?
3 people.
Three.
Should have been 4 though.
Who else should have gotten ejected?
Rudy.
Oh, Rudy.
Rudy should have got ejected. And then he plays the victim this morning.
What do you expect from Rudy? Rudy is an ass clown.
But that's why Draymond been waiting to do that, because Rudy stole a couple of defensive players of the year.
That's true. That's a great point.
And he just soft, man. You know, nobody likes Rudy in the NBA.
No, Rudy is probably one of the least liked players in the whole league.
Because you see, Draymond had him in a headlock. Nobody came to
Okay.
his defense.
Time out. Let's get called. Yeah, a couple things here. Let's break this down. So these teams played about a week ago.
Yes.
So maybe there's a little residual issues from that game. Not 100% sure. But, I mean, a minute 30, minute 40 into the game, Clay's running up the floor with Jaden McDaniel, and they get tangled up, and they go straight to get ready to fight.
Right. Well, I think they're trying to make ship a rivalry because before the season started, Ant-Man said that he wanted to face the Warriors. That's what he's most looking forward to, facing the Warriors, because Draymond talked to a lot of shit.
And there was a viral exchange from the first game where Draymond fouled him, and he's like, yo, you don't need to be fouling me like that. And Draymond's like, what are you going to do about it? What you going to do about it? And Ant's at the foul and going, ain't nobody worried about you, Draymond. But so I think I think all the stuff was in place. Ant like kind of put it out there before the season started. Then they had a chippy first game with that exchange, and that was going viral before last night. So I think Draymond's got it in his head. He's ready to go. But Clay's usually a pretty calm guy.
Yeah, that's the thing. Clay's rarely upset like this.
Yeah, that threw me off that he was involved. But again, you got the history of the Defensive Player of the Year. So as this happens, Clay and McDaniel get into it. Rudy kind of comes in, and literally he did come in on Clay's side, but not, to me, hyper aggressive. He could have been moving with a peacemaker vibe, but I think Draymond already wanted a piece of Rudy. And so he came in right away with bad intentions. And it was not a headlock. That was a choke.
Right.
There's a big difference. Like a headlock, you're over here, maybe you give a guy a noogie or something like that. That was a rear naked choke from MMA.
Okay, now before we have to, in Draymond's defense, Rudy Gobert, it looked like he was trying to be a peacemaker, but when you roll the camera back, he had Klay Thompson in a weird pull away position. He had his hand on his neck, and from Draymond's position, it looks like he's choking Klay.
Yeah.
So all those things considered. So if you already don't like somebody, and it looked like they beating up your friend or your brother, it looked like, because really the rules of engagement with sports is if there's a fight breakout, you pull your teammate away.
Right.
You don't touch the other teammate, so nobody don't get no ideas or think that you're trying to choke them.
And that was probably Rudy's first mistake. He kind of goes into initially and grabs Klay and grabs him up high around the neck, which triggers Draymond, who's, like I said, probably already got an axe to grind. And then he comes in there with the rear naked choke. But I'm telling you, man, the first thing I saw, because I was not watching the game, I was scrolling through Instagram, and I saw just the footage of Rudy in the rear naked choke.
Rudy got to learn how to tap. He got to learn how to tap.
That's the only thing that was missing. I would have laughed so hard if he went with a tap. That would have pushed it to a whole nother level of chaos.
Because Draymond drags him.
Yeah,
probably about 20 feet. but you know how people don't like Rudy because none of his teammates leave the bench. Nobody's upset. They just he's choking him. He got him good. He got him. Yeah, it's a choke right there. You got him.
Yeah, because Karl Towns he was in the area. He could have choked Draymond if he wanted. He was close enough. He was in position, but he took a pass on that.
He could have just hit him in top of the head. Anything.
Cat was like, I don't like playing with another big man. Yeah. Maybe we'll choke Rudy out of the league right now.
Because what does Rudy do? Rudy's very highly paid, and he does nothing.
No, yeah, blocks occasional shots.
Yeah, that's that's the one thing I feel for Draymond, because Rudy stole a couple of Defensive Players of the Year, and he didn't really deserve them. He blocked shots, but he's 7'3".
Yeah. No, I agree.
He doesn't even block. He doesn't even change the course of the game when he blocks shots. He blocks a shot here and there.
Well, the big thing with Rudy is typically in the playoffs, he doesn't even get to play. The games are such that they have to limit his minutes because he's not that effective. Right. And so here, your Defensive Player of the Year,
his defense is one dimensional.
By the award is not even you can't even keep him on the floor in a playoff game.
And your defense got to be bad if you let somebody come and get you on a rear naked choke. There's some kind of defensive move you could have, kind of reflex.
Definitely could have done that.
And he's almost a foot taller than Draymond.
He probably is.
So imagine a little guy, essentially, even though Draymond is 6'7", choking you. And you're defenseless. Your arms are flailing.
Why he could have just stood up and lifted Draymond off the ground. He would have got him off his feet if he just stood up.
He could have did anything but that.
Yeah.
How you go home to your woman
or guy?
Hey, you never know how he is from France. You never know about how these things shake out. But how do you go home to the person you love and you're the man protector, and you let somebody just choke you like a rag doll, drag you down the court? How do you go back to the locker room and your teammates just let somebody choke you?
Seriously, I would love to have at halftime, when they go in the locker room, are people kind of not making eye contact with Rudy after that?
Yo, because it doesn't say we don't fuck with you than letting you get choked and dragged down the court.
And is Rudy salty that nobody came to his defense? Like,
he has to be. Nobody even asked him about it. I think that's like an unwritten thing that people like. That's like a silent thing that people know that people don't fuck with you, Rudy.
Yeah. Or I mean, is it so obvious that like he knew damn well nobody was coming to back him up, and that everyone would just knew what it was?
That's when you tap. You save yourself the embarrassment.
I think a tap would have been more embarrassing, actually.
I mean, because there's no way out of that. And then his response after that.
What did he did try to play the victim.
He says like, oh, Draymond finds a way to get thrown out because Steph isn't playing.
Yeah, when his boy Steph's not playing, Draymond will find any reason to get thrown out.
You could have said, hey, next time I see you, or I'm gonna see him out. Like you could have alluded. I know you can't say that you're gonna beat somebody up, but you could have alluded to meeting him in the parking lot.
This ain't over.
Yeah, like come on, man. Even if you don't mean it.
Yeah, exactly.
Even if you don't mean it, that's bare minimum man shit.
Yeah.
Even if like a big guy beats you up, when you get to a safe distance, you say, "Yo, this ain't over." Even if you don't mean it, even if you know that it's over. I don't want no trouble with you. Because Draymond ain't rap tight.
On site.
Draymond did not get the toy in his Happy Meal, and I think we all know that.
That's funny. But what I'm concerned about, though, like, at the end of the day, nobody got hurt. Right. So I don't want there to be, like, big suspensions and all this stuff. I heard Jay Williams, and I don't like Jay Williams, the commentator. He's like, Draymond should be suspended for 10 games. Yeah,
and that's like the consensus now is people saying 10 games. First of all,
That's insane.
I thought Jay Williams was fired and then now he's back. I don't understand how fire works.
I wish
he
stayed fired.
But they are going. You know what I don't like about like these commentators, especially guys who play in the league. That's going to end up being the law. If all the commentators are saying 10 games, then that's going to kind of be the thing. And I don't think a 10-game suspension for like a choke.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. I mean, like at the end of the day, like this was just like an embarrassing brouhaha.
Right.
Nobody threw a decisive punch. Nobody got injured. All of the fighting action was on the floor. This is just, hey, a 1-game suspension for everybody involved. Keep it moving.
Because it wasn't like a melee. Nobody left the bench.
Yeah.
And then why did Clay get thrown out?
Yeah, that was bizarre.
That made no sense.
Yeah, that was bizarre.
Clay was being pulled. He left with his jersey split in half almost.
Right.
And I understand people are going to say, oh, Draymond has a history and he did this and he did that. And I understand there should be maybe a little bit more of a punishment levy because of that. Maybe 2 games,
I disagree.
3 games.
I disagree with that. Like, it is what it is. Why are we punishing people on history?
Right.
Draymond, I mean, if that's what we're doing, Draymond should be banned for life.
True.
Because, I mean, the fact is he has an entire history of bizarre physical instances with other players. And in the Game 5 thing with LeBron in the finals back in the day, he's got a million incidents. The reality is, like, none of these incidents in and of themselves is horrific.
Right.
So why are we going to do cumulative suspensions? Suspend him 1 game and keep it moving. Right. If he was so horrible, if his behavior was so bad, you've had plenty of times you could have said, hey, we're going to ban this guy for a year.
But you know what? Unfortunately, they are going to make an exemption because they're already positioning it in a way where he's going to get 10 to 15, 20 games. And they're positioning it in that way because they're not even mentioning Rudy Gobert because at the very minimum, even if he went over there to defuse the situation, once he put his hands on Clay, it wasn't in a diffused manner. Your hands don't go high when you're trying to pull someone off. It just doesn't work. Your hands don't find your way to their neck in some way. You can see like the indent in Clay's neck. So you can say at first glance or like in real time, oh, you're just trying to defuse it. But then when you replay it, like how they replayed everything, that's why it doesn't make sense because they're kind of leaning towards saying Draymond needs to be suspended for 10 games because you kick Clay out. So now I know you're not being reasonable. Because if you watch that interaction,
and that's why I despise Jay Williams so much because he's right after this, he's throwing this 10-game out there. Right. It's literally the first thing people hear, and so you start to gauge all your thoughts about, hey, is he right about that 10-game stuff? Right. No.
Right.
This is one game for each guy involved and keep it moving, man.
Right.
You're not trying to like educate kindergartners to keep their hands to themselves.
Right.
These are grown men in a highly competitive situation. It got out of hand. They got kicked out of the game, suspend them another game, and move on. We are not talking about hyper-violent conduct that resulted in like an injury to a guy. Like if he had choked him out and he was unconscious or something like that, or somebody took like a full-fledged swing and KO'd a guy, that's different. That you're almost getting into criminal behavior at that point.
Right. And I think, man, the problem with someone like Jay Williams saying that is he has played sports his entire life. If Greeny says that, if Windhurst says that, then there's just some smucks who watch sports.
Right.
But if you were Jay Williams who played at every level and played at a high level at every level, you know that this is a part of sports.
Yeah.
This is literally tempers will flare to a point where you guys are fighting.
Right.
And there was no fist thrown. They literally were grabbing each other, and he grabbed the bigger guy by the neck, which is what you do in a fight where you don't want to hurt anybody.
Right.
You grab the big guy by the neck.
Exactly.
So like when you say stuff like that and you're Jay Williams and I really only heard Jay Williams say it as an athlete. I seen Nick Wright and those guys say stuff like that. Yeah. But I expect those kind of pundits to say things like that because
but not a
they
former
don't
player. Really
play sports. Maybe Nick Wright plays in the playground somewhere or with his sons or something like that. But if you really play sports, it didn't even seem like an egregious thing. It was funny to me. I just like
it was way more funny than it was disturbing.
Right. It's like, come on, man. It made me be like, yo, Rudy Gobert is like a little girl. Like,
I swear that the picture of him like getting choked from behind, I literally would want that in my office, like hanging.
Right.
I think that would be a blast.
Because the crazy thing about it, and I know Draymond did this on purpose, it was more of a choke to embarrass than it was to hurt.
Oh, for sure.
He didn't cut off his air supply or anything like that.
Yeah.
He just was holding him to say, hey, I'm holding you in a headlock for no apparent reason for an extended period of time.
Just to make you a meme. My only goal here is to make you a meme. But yeah, no, the only thing we can hope for now. And I mean, the other thing is like, the Lakers and Grizzlies game got a little chippy too. There was a thing with AD, and I don't even know the other guy, but layup, they kind of bump a little bit, and then AD kind of goes to throw him up. AD displaying a rare bit of toughness,
right?
And that guy fell over like hurricane force winds were blowing through the arena, and then LeBron flung a guy to the ground later in the game.
And nobody hears about it. What if LeBron put somebody in the headlock? It wouldn't make the news.
Just another day.
They like he probably deserved it.
Yeah, I'm sure. And that's the thing too. Like literally, and Draymond being involved in this takes it to a whole nother level. Like, yeah, I mean, but I don't like that. It's like, at some point we've essentially accepted his behavior. He's in like year 12 of a career. It's like we're not going to change him at this point. We just need to endure him to the finish line of his career.
And you know what's kind of stupid is we champion it as he's an enforcer. He's the enforcer. And then when you decide that he's just a nuisance and he needs to stop, and you can't have it both ways. You can't say he's an enforcer and then he's a nuisance.
Right. Yeah, no.
And because that's not fair to him. And he plays with a lot of passion. He plays. He for lack of a better term, he plays the game the way you play a game. Sometimes there's that one guy who fights, or one guy who is if you bring some aggression, then he'll bring aggression.
And that's like what should not be lost in this is Draymond Green is not a fighter.
Right.
He is a talker, and he's kind of like this weird, like physical provoker.
Right.
He's not a fighter. He's not like throwing punches at people. He's not waiting outside at the bus to fucking flatten people. He is just like a disruptive agent of chaos.
Right. It's more of a mental, like he just plays like a mental game with you.
Yeah.
And so That's my biggest gripe is the athletes who commentate these things. They know that,
Yeah.
and then they still
They want
commentate.
to be sanctimonious about it.
Right, and it's like, come on, man,
Yeah.
come on. Especially when you guys aren't these prim proper. I don't understand why he's doing that. Jay Williams, come on.
Jay, we don't understand why in your rookie year you were riding around on a motorcycle and
Right.
busted your leg and ended your career.
When it was in your contract to not do that specific thing.
Well, we want to talk about bad judgment. Look
Right,
in
come on,
look
man.
in the
Like,
mirror.
that's what, like, it's like, come on, and that's the craziest thing is like you're so. Draymond never gets in trouble outside of basketball.
Yeah.
You never hear anything negative about him outside of
That's
basketball.
That's a good point.
So he stays inside the lines. He makes business decisions that are commendable. He's a businessman.
But I do think on some level, Jason Williams is a, from my understanding, he's a fairly bright guy. That was his reputation when he came out of high school and went to Duke.
He went to Duke.
He is a guy though, and he had a really short career, ended with a motorcycle accident, and I do think like and maybe it's a thing to kind of overcompensate for the lack of his playing career that he
Right.
wanted. He's really dove into being like this broadcasting guy,
Right.
and for the most part, and I'll say this. What he said last night's not necessarily inconsistent with the majority of his things. On the spectrum, he tends to be closer to the non-players
Right.
in most of his takes than he does to the players.
Right.
And so that in that way it was
Jay
somewhat
Williams.
consistent.
He's always like a. He's always like a pundit who he's never played sports.
Yeah, he definitely is more.
He
on
says
that
things
side.
like he just doesn't understand. That's the part that's annoying. Is like you understand this stuff. You can articulate. Okay, this is his mindset. You're talking like you just don't get it or you don't understand.
Yeah, like you never played. No, that is.
And that's normally a knock on people like the Duke people who went to Duke.
Yeah.
Is they act like they're disconnected from reality. They don't give only JJ Redick gives real analysis from Duke. Everybody else is.
Yeah.
I don't understand why he would do this. You don't understand why he would lose his cool in a basketball game?
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true.
Against a team that you guys are building as a rivalry. So
Oh wait, there is a suspension notice now.
Oh really?
I think it's in 6 games.
6 games.
I think so. It flashed up from the notifications. I think that's an atrocity. I think that's ridiculous. I'm not in favor of that. I think and I'm usually pretty positive on the NBA, the commissioner, and how they deal with things.
Right.
They got this wrong. This is an overreaction.
6 games.
So, yeah, not good at all.
It's better than 10 because I was Adam Silver is someone who is like David Stern in comparison to Adam Silver. David Stern is going to do what David Stern would like to do under any circumstance. Adam Silver could be swayed.
David Stern was commissioner of the league with his ego.
Right.
His ego was front and center to all of his decisions.
Right.
Adam Silver, and I actually think it's an excellent leadership quality.
Mm-hmm.
He leads without a lot of ego.
Right.
It's certainly not the first thing that comes across. And I think when you take your own ego out of it, you are able to make more balanced decisions. You're not influenced emotionally by, hey, they're challenging my authority or this or that. And you kind of get to test the temperature of the room and arrive at a decision that seems to have some backing. And if you really if you go back to probably one of the earliest and most significant things he faced was the Donald Sterling situation with the Clippers when that audio came out. And I think he was a little slow in making his decision, but what that allowed to happen was he saw the fortitude of the players and the commitment that they had, and he reacted to that. And he was okay, I am doing this because I have the will of the league, the players with me. I'm not making this decision because I run everything, which would have been a Stern move.
I think that his best quality is that he will listen to players.
Yes.
Consider their input, and he'll make decisions based on that.
Yeah.
Sometimes David Stern, I don't know if David Stern was tone deaf or he just didn't care about what you were saying.
Well, David Stern, if you think about it, he was a shorter guy.
Mm-hmm.
He was functioning in basically the world of the tall men.
Right.
And I do think that there was an air of Napoleonic complex.
Definitely a complex, or where I'm in charge.
Yeah.
I can see that. Six games just seems excessive for something that didn't end in the melee.
Yeah, didn't involve fans, didn't involve extra people in the
Yeah,
court,
no fish.
didn't involve in anybody getting hurt. This is an overreach on this particular issue.
Yeah, it's especially, another component that we didn't mention early in this season. The referees have inserted themselves in the game. They've been throwing out players for staring people down, or
Victor got a pretty soft tee the other day. There was a call, like he thought he was straight up in the air. They gave a foul on him. He had the ball after the play ended, and he went to slam it down. Not a crazy slam. It was one of those frustrated where I think he fully expected to throw it down and catch it on the way up, but he kind of missed the catch.
Right.
And they teed him up over there. It was unnecessary.
Yeah, that's ridiculous, man.
And who got Giannis got
Giannis got ejected for staring at it on a dunk.
Yeah. I mean, come on, man. What are we doing?
Like literally one of the faces of the league.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like it's become this thing where the refs early in the season, now that's like 5 instances, Wemby, Giannis. There was another guy who got kicked out. I can't remember who it was.
Yeah.
Clay shouldn't have never got ejected in this game.
Yeah, not at all. Not at all.
He was literally tangled. This is literally like a play on. This may be a double technical situation.
Oh, for sure.
It may be a warning delay. Him being thrown out makes no sense.
Yeah.
Draymond, understandable. What is it? What was it? AJ McDaniels. What was the guy's name?
Jaden McDaniels.
Jaden McDaniels. Was the agitator.
Yeah.
He should face a suspension if Draymond's getting suspended.
Yeah, if Draymond's being suspended, I agree. And like I said, I would have no problem if you went a game apiece for everybody involved.
Right.
That I'm okay with that. That would be the 4 guys to me. Everybody gets a game. Clay, Jaden, Rudy, and Draymond, and that's it.
Right. Because 6 is. I understand. Another component is they were playing in the in-season cup game, so that's high profile, and they're shining the light on that. So all these components, so that one game would make sense because of all these things.
Yeah, and now 6 games, with a significant player, you do impact that team's season in a way. I mean, like if they go 2-4 over that stretch, and maybe otherwise would have gone 4-2 or 5-1, that has a hand in playoff seedings and maybe results down the stretch.
Yeah.
Over something that's essentially trivial, man. We all had a laugh over that.
Right. That's silly.
Nobody's looking at the game of basketball today, watching that video going, game's out of control, this is horrible, anything like that. There's no indignation. There's literally just humor.
Just as stupid. Now, speaking of humor,
what do we have?
The Los Angeles Clippers are now
that is. Is it? It's 0-5 with Harden.
0-5 with Harden.
0-6 like as a team.
Right.
Yeah. And they're doing the whole like we're still trying to figure it out.
Right.
There's not. I mean, these are dudes that have been in the league for like 10 years.
Right.
Like there's no figuring it out.
And the funniest part is Harden is like, I just gotta get in shape. No one stops you from getting in shape.
That's entirely within your control. There's nobody else that has any impact on you being in shape or not.
You're not coming off an injury. Because you were trying to get traded. So you literally acknowledging that because I was trying to get traded, I didn't do anything.
Yes.
So,
I'm out of shape because I had hurt feelings.
Yes. I just gotta. That's important to me. Why James Harden is too old to be working his way in shape by playing basketball.
Yeah.
That's something you do when you're Tyrese Maxey, and he's not even doing that.
No, dude. Harden is a cancer. Like he is just not the answer for anyone.
Right.
And I mean like again, and the other funny thing is like, part of his beef with Philadelphia in the second half of the year after he wasn't an All-Star was like he needed to shoot more and be more of a central figure and not be a distributor. The 5 games he's played at the Clippers, like he's barely shooting the ball.
Right.
I think he's averaging less than 10 shot attempts per game as a Clipper. It's like your role that you would have had in Philadelphia, playmaking and
Right.
complementing Embiid and Maxey.
Yeah.
Like that's all you're ever gonna do, with the Clippers.
Right. Especially now, because what I don't understand, and what I do understand it, but it looks like management and ownership made that trade. Because the trade makes no sense. Nobody with a basketball mind would make that trade.
Yeah.
You guys had momentum last year. Kawhi doesn't go down. You guys maybe make it to the second round, third round. You guys could go deep.
Yeah.
So you didn't need to make like that knee jerk reaction. And then you have four players who need the ball. Kawhi is more inept to play off the ball, but he still needs the ball.
No, he still functions. I mean, Kawhi is not to what I call a fluid action player.
Right.
He is going to get the ball in his hands and either pull up and shoot, dribble to his spot and shoot, or he's going to get somebody on the block and bully him. Those
Right.
are all, in their way, like ball-intensive activities.
Right.
So he's ball dominant. I really don't know what the hell Paul George does, but who knows? But we know what Westbrook is. We know what Harden is, and it's like, yeah, it's not gonna fit. And who's a committed defender out of that group?
No, and Paul George and Kawhi used to be defenders, but Kawhi's just not as good as he used to be. Age, attrition,
The
injuries,
accumulation of injuries.
Yeah, it's like he's not the same player. Paul George is just getting up in age. He's had injuries, but he still was an elite defender for a time after that.
Yeah.
And Westbrook won't guard his shadow. He'll like you know one thing that people that commentators and like media personalities say about Westbrook, he never cheats the game. That's a way of saying, although he's doing a lot of things wrong, he's playing hard.
Right.
That's not good.
But what he does, but he quite literally cheats the game defensively. He is like an out of scheme gambler.
Right.
Like he likes to make the play for a steal or whatever. He's not a guy that like plays his position in a defensive structure.
He actually does cheat the game because what Westbrook has done for the past 8 years is he's figured out how to manipulate the game to get stats.
Yeah.
Doesn't look good. It doesn't translate to winning, and you're not going to go far in the playoffs if you even make the playoffs. But what he does is he won't contest the jump shot in favor of getting a loose rebound. He'll hold the ball until there's assist, which is terrible basketball. Just hold the ball until there's a guaranteed assist.
Yeah.
You'll miss a lot of plays that way, and you'll turn a lot of balls over, which is what he does.
Right.
So he actually does cheat the game, and players know this. There's players who will allude he manipulates the game to get these numbers, and then there's media guys who he never cheats the game. But it's like, but if you really watch that game, it's not a very good game to watch.
Yeah.
He's like at least with Harden, who does the same thing. It's a little bit more efficient, and he'll try to make the right play sometimes.
Yeah. I think they're very similar.
They are very
in
similar.
what they do.
I'm just trying to be nice.
Nah, don't be nice.
They
get two guys that kind of thrive off of doing the same thing.
Right.
And again, and I said this a couple weeks ago when the trade went down. It was like the only ostensible reason to make this trade is basically the Clippers assume that one or two of these four players will not be healthy by the time of the playoffs.
Right.
And that by having four, they'll potentially have at least two viable options in the playoffs and have a puncher's chance at doing something.
You know what it feels like? It feels like Ballmer has become Jerry Jones. And
I like that.
He first of all, I don't think Ty Lue would make a decision to play all four of these guys in a small ball situation, because these guys aren't traditional. They're not like plug and play guys. They are guys who do specific things. So if you, it's not like when you had KD and you plug him with the Warriors, he's able to just do what the Warriors need to do, just score in this wing position.
Yeah.
These guys do niche things that don't translate to winning outside of Kawhi.
Well, yeah, it's really you like when you have a self-indulgent player,
Right.
you have to create a group around him that serves that player,
Right.
that does the things that player is either unwilling or unable to do.
Right.
And if you basically have 4 guys that are self-indulgent players,
Right.
like who's doing the dirty work?
Right.
Nobody.
Nobody.
It's just not a playable situation. Tyler's already frustrated. He's like, this is going to be the biggest coaching challenge of my career.
And nobody is not only willing to do it, they just not capable of doing the little things.
Not at this point in their careers. You know,
Right.
That's the thing.
And I hear a lot of I watch ESPN and I hear them say, all they have to do, like Russell can just rebound or he can just push the tempo. They're leaving out the fact that Russell rebounds a lot of times at a detriment because he's short arming contests and he's roaming and he's just fishing for rebounds. So it looks good on the stat sheet, but it gives up offensive rebounds. It gives up shots that probably should have been contested. So these things where it seems like he can just rebound. Not really, because he's a great rebounder for selfish gain.
Right.
The
problem, I kind of like, I was talking to somebody about Harden the other day, and it's like, if you have a plant and you put it in a pot, it's going to grow to the plant.
Right.
And when he was in OKC originally, he was that. And then when he went to Houston, like there was no pot. He just grew like wherever.
Right.
And you can't take that back.
Right.
Once somebody's in that place, it's not coming back. And the resume, the achievements, and these are all well-accomplished players in this league. They're all unpotted plants right now.
Right.
And you can't like put them all back and say, all right, here's you're going to do this role, you're going to be here, you're going to be here, and it's all going to work.
Right.
They're too far gone for that. You need to surround veteran guys with younger guys that are growing into complementary roles.
Right.
And this is just a disastrous team structure.
And I like that analogy. And also, not only are they growing freely without a pot, nobody has told them, hey, you're not supposed to grow that way.
Exactly.
So not only they're growing wild, they're growing wrong.
They've been enabled.
Right.
Like,
and so
all for the last probably 8 years of their lives professionally.
I'm sorry.
Jeez, what'd you do?
I'm sorry, that's a tic-tac.
Oh, I was gonna say.
But
spitting loogies on the equipment.
No, it's because what's funny, I was thinking about what James Harden said. He doesn't even realize that this is not a thing you should say. He doesn't even realize he's saying, I just gotta get in shape. You're
Yeah.
You're 6 games in.
Yeah.
That's like being like that's like being in like the Air Force and you're like the operator of the bomber and he like, I got to figure out how to be I got to figure out how to work this thing now.
I really don't like flying. Yeah. But yeah, no, it's absurd. It's a disaster. But I think Ballmer is obviously a wealthy guy.
Right.
I think he's a guy that, like Jerry Jones, he's gonna overlook the chemistry, the little things,
right,
to make the big splash hire, the big splash
right.
move. And I think that's his fatal flaw as an owner, and I do not see them winning anytime
right.
soon.
And it's going to continue that way because you can tell that the decisions that he has his fingerprints on because they usually don't make sense.
Right.
And then you have to, and then
that must be Steve.
Yeah. It's like, because to take on James Harden, who's an expiring contract, who wants a 3 or 4 years with the max or somewhere in that neighborhood. There's no reason to do that. He hasn't been worth that. He hasn't been worth that in maybe 4 years. That's what when Bubba's here and I came on and he was saying he took a pay cut. He's like, no, his value went down.
Well, no, he did technically take a pay cut last year. He basically restructured his deal,
right,
to take a little bit less money. But again, clearly, as what's come out this year is he thought there was a very clear wink understanding with Daryl Morey that he would be extended longer term with high money.
Right.
So he he kind of took one for the team, but again, in his mind, he wasn't really doing it for the team.
Right, he's doing it for
with
himself.
An understanding that
Right.
I'm going to get this money back.
And he's such a like a spoiled superstar that he doesn't realize when he's saying that's what he's saying.
Yeah.
He's saying, I took one for the team. He's like, no, you're literally saying that you took a deal so that it'll benefit you later.
Right.
You didn't take anything for the team.
Yeah.
And he doesn't realize that, yes, that's our agreement, but what's the non-stated part of that agreement is you have to still produce.
Yeah.
And so 20-10 is great numbers. Even though you're dumping 7 of those assists to Joel Embiid, which is the best big man in the game, they're still great numbers, but they're not super max numbers.
No. And I really like, at the end of the day, like basketball, the league doesn't need James Harden.
Right.
Like, we didn't miss him the first week of his 2 weeks of the season when he's pouting or sitting out or lobbying for a trade. He's not very fun to watch anymore.
Right.
And I just want it to be where, like, the teams see this
and be honest, because honestly he was only fun to watch the first few years of that MVP ascension, and then a couple years after that.
Well, up through the Chris Paul Rocket years,
right?
Because they legitimately
had a chance
to beat the Warriors. Right. They were the Warriors' kryptonite in some ways.
They were built to beat the Warriors, and the only reason they didn't beat the Warriors was because of James Harden. So it was kind of
they had the Chris Paul hamstring.
They had the Chris Paul hamstring, but also they had KD went out.
Yeah.
So now it's just you and Steph. So now who's better?
Right.
And it really came down to who will be a teammate, and Steph will always win in that regard.
Right. But here's another guy I want to pivot to that's already well on his way to ass clownery, and that's Jordan Poole. He is he's a complete moron. Like he got drafted later in the draft. He came on as a Warriors player, seemed to really, be growing as a player. He was instrumental in the championship season. And then he came back, and we know he had the Draymond punch, but he wasn't very good last year.
Right.
And he wasn't very good late when it mattered.
Right.
And he got his bag, and they got rid of him. I mean, why would a team get rid of a 23-year-old guy who should be on the rise in his career when they have an aging core?
Right.
You have to be an asshole.
And it's another situation where with same with James Harden where you say things that you're not supposed to say those things out loud because it means that you're an idiot. So he goes, I already got my ring, so now I'm playing carefree. What are you talking about?
That's what I was getting to next, is he goes to Washington, who's not a very good team, but it's a relatively young team. And if you are that guy, if you felt that the Warriors relying on Steph and these other guys, it didn't let you grow.
Right.
It didn't let you get outside the pot and be all you could be. You come, you ball, you do everything you can to make Washington kind of a little bit of a contender of maybe just to make the playoffs. I'm not saying championship. But no, this guy goes over there and is talking like he's a 36-year-old guy. Hey, I've got my ring. I just want to wind down the rest of my career and have some fun. Dude, you are an idiot. You are exactly what basketball does not need.
Right. And I think the way he's carrying on and the way he's playing, it's obvious. Oh, that's why Draymond punched you.
Yes,
it was a combination of, sure, you had things going on at home and you were saying certain things, but it's really because you think that you're bigger than you actually are. Yeah. And there's nothing more annoying than somebody who's not as good as they think they are.
Yeah. Well, okay. Two things, and we mentioned it with the Rudy Gobert thing, but I remember saying it when that punch happened. The most telling thing to me is that Draymond, this is the Jordan Poole incident, was kind of essentially at the corner or 3-point line of the court.
Right.
Walked with bad intentions.
Right.
20 plus feet to where Jordan Poole was and punched him. Not one Warrior.
Nobody flinched.
Moved that way.
And
pretended to want to get
and
in
not
the way.
not even punched him. He was basically knocked out cold if Draymond doesn't catch him.
Right.
So not only people, they first of all they know you, so they know that you're no longer talking. You're walking towards him. This isn't good. You see Steph look kind of turn the other way and continue doing what he's doing as if like he doesn't see what's going on.
Yeah.
So it's like it's kind of like you deserve that ass whooping, and we are all here for it.
Yeah, I that was my conclusion. You were so annoying. Nobody cared to stop that, and I think that was essentially what it was, and it's unfortunate that a talented guy, again, coming into what should be his prime, has already basically lost the plot of what it means to be a high level NBA guy.
Right, and I think there's something that happens in professional sports, NBA, NFL, MLB. If you have like an unorthodox kind of a game, you'll win a year or two, and then the league will figure you out.
Oh, okay.
And so you have to work hard and continue to progress, or you will. Because now Jordan Poole, he won't be starting in a year or so.
He's basically gone from like rising potential star, I'm not saying superstar, to basically being Nick Young.
Right.
That's what he's on a track to do now, is be a guy that has some talent, but he's a complete clown.
Right.
And is just gonna cycle through a handful of teams and occasionally put up a good game, but more often than not make a fool of himself.
Because he was trending. He was trending where Austin Reeves is trending, where was trending last year, and Austin Reeves kind of balanced out, and people kind of see what he is, and they've accepted it.
Yeah.
But they were both trending to a point where the fringe all-star starter to franchise player.
Yeah, this guy's got some talent. Like, where does this go? That like that the championship year with the Warriors. That was the question. This guy could do some stuff. Where does this go? Does the Warriors get passed to him at some point, or does he get impatient and leave to go to a team where he can, be all he can be, for better or worse, like the way James Harden did? And here we are. He's been traded. He's playing like a clown, and I think he's close to shot.
Yeah, and that was the comparison. He's gonna go there and do what James Harden did. I don't think he's as talented as James Harden.
No,
I think that he in his mind was just as good as Steph Curry.
Yeah,
and then people that started to be poisoned because he's clearly not, and it's interfering with how we play basketball.
Yeah, there's a fine line in these things. When you are when you're like, I want to say like close, when you're around somebody and you can do some things on your own, you can maybe match him in some areas. It can give you a false sense of what you are and what they are.
Right.
Because that difference, what makes the difference between Steph, what makes the difference between all the elite guys and the other guys, isn't in the flashes.
Right.
It's in the consistency of it.
Right.
And that's the thing. Like, you and I could look exactly the same for a week.
Right.
But guess what? In week 20 of this NBA season, I'm still going to be Steph Curry, and you're going to be in a shooting slump and haven't hit a 3 in 2 weeks.
Right.
But that's the difference between these guys. It's like, you can run with me for a while, but you ain't going to run with me for long. And
that's I think that's what people, period. If you see someone doing something great, they will make it look easy.
Yeah.
And then human nature, along with ego, will say, I can do that. And so not realizing that Steph puts a lot of work into things that you don't really, if you're not really into basketball, you don't notice.
Right.
So if you decide, hey, I'm as good as Steph Curry, and you start making turnovers and you start taking ill-advised shots, you go, well, Steph does it. Well, Steph's a 2-time MVP and a 4-time champion.
Yeah.
So when you start comparing yourself to that, I understand the irrational confidence of an athlete, but at some point there has to be some humility where like, nah, that's Steph Curry, and maybe I can eventually be as good as him, but I'm not as good as him now.
Right.
Because even when he went over to DC, he started talking like a veteran. Yeah, now I have my team. What? What are you talking about?
Yeah,
man?
yeah.
You're a third year start player. This is your first year starting.
Yeah, now you got your own team.
You got your own team. Yeah. It's like it was like reports. Oh, he flew all the guys out to L.A. and they were working out together.
Oh, I didn't catch that. Okay.
You're not like You're not a veteran
like that.
Yeah, they're gonna give you the keys, sure, but it's a rebuilding team, so it's. Those keys can be taken quickly, and right now I think he's averaging like 19, 18.
Yeah, it's not even had like a significant uptick
Right.
in his personal,
Right.
contribution.
Because people were projecting he'd be at 26, 27 points a game.
Yeah, you'd figure they don't have a ton there. He'd
Right.
have all the opportunities he wants, and even if the thought was even if the team didn't necessarily succeed much on the court, that individually
He'd
would
have
shine.
a shining season.
And he's not even doing that.
Right.
And I think that it's just revealing of who he is.
Right.
Now, can he change? I'm not a big change guy.
Right.
I doubt it.
And I don't, because he was already trending down in year 2.
Yeah.
And there's something. First of all, people can say it was because of the Draymond incident, and even if it was, that's still indicative of his personality and his character.
Yes.
That you would be like, well, I don't care if this team loses, or well, it's just business. Okay, so that means that you can be swayed in any way for any reason.
Right.
So now he was already on the trending down, and what he did well, it appeared that the league had figured it out. So how he would come in and be a spark off the bench, he was no longer a spark off the bench. He's taking the same shots, making the same moves, and they just weren't working in the same way.
Yeah.
And so for me, I see what it is. And then when players verbalize it after he left, you hear like interviews with Andre Iguodala, and basically what Andre Iguodala alluded to, even though he was trying to give him praise, he was saying like, well, he'd do something and he'd get reprimanded by Steve Kerr, and his attitude would be like, well, Steph did it, Clay
Right.
did it, and it's like you don't get those same privileges.
Right. No, that's a very significant thing in an NBA team. I mean, there are literally 2, maybe 3 guys that have license to do whatever,
Right.
and then everybody else on that roster fits into a role. And it's kind of
Right.
the same issue. Like the Clippers have created a team
Right.
that doesn't fit that dynamic.
Right.
And as a result, it's unlikely that they're going to have any significant success this season.
Right.
Because there's a model out there of how this works.
Right. And it's magnified because they've all had individual success.
Yeah.
You got Russell Westbrook and James Harden are 3 and
MVPs.
4 on the depth chart in their MVPs.
Right.
So it's kind of hard to tell them that they're not doing the right. Like they literally feel like they're doing the correct thing.
Yeah.
So even when they reference it in post games, they're saying things where they're not even acknowledging what they've done wrong.
Yeah.
So it's like they don't know. They don't know. Like if you see like Steph had a bad game, he'll be like, man, I turned the ball over too much, and I gotta just be more responsible with the ball.
Right.
Westbrook will have the same conversation, and he'll be like, hey, turnovers happen. And it's like, yeah, they do, but you cost your team the game.
Not at this rate.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I do think like teams have to have a certain calibration. There has to be something of a pecking order. And if you basically have 4 individuals kind of doing their own thing, you're never going to get that. And like even I think when you go to the Heat, like when LeBron went down there with Wade and Bosh, it probably took the first season to
Right.
really fully. I think Wade and LeBron kind of had maybe a little bit of, I want to be the guy going against
Right.
each other. Wade kind of passed that to LeBron, and Bosh fell into that third wheel, and it took off.
Right.
but you can't just have 4 guys who haven't been able to figure it out. And again, it's that same thing. And I don't old people are shaky. Like when you have guys that are now in their 30s and they've done it for that long a certain way, it's got to be incredibly hard to just have them wake up and be like, hey, I slept on this, man. I'm going to change what I'm doing. I'm going to play off of you and do everything I can to make your game easier, and I think we got a better chance to win.
Because even the crazy thing about, especially people like James Harden and Russell Westbrook, not only they've been doing it for so long, they've done it without reproach for a long time. Where there's stories about they wouldn't even show negative James Harden highlights or lowlights
in the film session.
And I know it to be true because the way he says things in the interviews.
Right.
And I've only seen when people say, "Oh, we sacrificed for the better of the team." I've only seen it actually happen and it worked twice since I've watched basketball. It happened with the Heatles.
Okay.
Where they actually did sacrifice to win championships.
Yeah.
Where you had Dwayne Wade was second in MVP voting before that.
Yeah.
And then Kevin Durant, where he actually sacrificed
with the Warriors.
With the Warriors.
Yeah.
And even more so with Kevin Durant because it was seamless, and without the Draymond incident, you didn't even know. It just felt
that was like year 3 or 4 that they were together anyway. So that's another great point, because another group that I always look back as a reference point for guys coming together quickly was the Celtics group with KG, Ray Allen, and Paul Pierce. Like they came together that one summer when all the moves were made.
Right.
And they took like the trip to Europe. Doc came up with the Ubuntu mantra.
Right.
And then they started the season 20-4.
Right.
And they clearly just made every effort to fit together. They vibed off of each other, and obviously won a championship for them. But these teams, when you watch them and they don't look happy, they're not going anywhere.
Right.
You cannot have success at the highest level if you don't, on some level, collectively enjoy what you're doing.
Right. And you have to. So even those three teams, that's a great addition. The Celtics, they have a pecking order that the Clippers don't have.
Yes.
So even though we moved into positionless basketball in a lot of ways, in small ball and all these things, which we'll move away from again because these things aren't very good basketball really. But you can't have small ball and then have 4 players that are exactly the same or similar, or 2 players that are exactly the same and 2 players are similar to each other. That's not small ball, and it's hard to configure that. It's hard because Russell Westbrook can't play without the basketball in his hand. You need James Harden to be a jump shooter, and he's not a traditional jump shooter. The only thing that makes him a good only reason why we consider him a shooter is because he takes a lot of shots. It's in rhythm, and he has to shoot 30 to get 20 on a good to get 30 on a good night, and it looks good because he has 12 assists and he has 9 rebounds. It looked like a good game, but when you have to only do that in 20, like Kevin Durant, when he went to Golden State, none of them took more than 20 shots.
Yeah.
3 of them took.
There was a balance there.
Clay took the most shots because Clay said, I ain't sacrificing. Even though he did sacrifice, but he was only asked to be a catch and shoot guy.
Right.
So it worked out even better.
Yeah.
These guys don't even have that regiment where we're all going to take 15 shots.
Yeah.
So you'll see this weird influx where you'll have one game Russell has 25 shots and James Harden has 4. And then you have another game with James Harden. Well, James Harden hasn't shot a lot yet to begin with, and it's only because he's not good without the ball taking shots. Like it was the one time when they threw him the ball and he had to take a dribble and a sidestep to shoot a wide open 3-pointer or wide open jump shot.
Right.
So how does that work? You can't.
It won't. It won't.
It's
I
impossible.
mean, it'll get better than 0-5, but
Right.
it's not going to be good.
Right.
It's not going to be good enough to accomplish anything this year.
And it's gonna. I think that they'll have some faux success in the middle to the end of the season, and then it'll crash so hard at the end, and then Russell will be left holding the bag.
I hope they leave Harden holding the
Yeah.
bag because he deserves to be held.
He deserves it, but they're already blaming Russ because also another component. Even though James Harden is an expiring contract, Russ is on a basically like a vet minimum deal.
Yeah, very, very.
So
low
he'll
deal.
be the first to get out because they can afford to waive him or whatever they need to do.
Yeah. Now, I said it before this season even started, is that the Clippers, if they're smart, will blow this team up. It was put together to win titles. It's failed to do
Right.
that, and it's basically aged out of any reasonable window to expect title level play.
Right. Because their only legitimate chance was the year of the bubble.
Yeah, probably.
And then after that, they're old. You can't keep sitting down Kawhi. You keep sitting down old cars, they won't start.
I think he's sitting himself.
Yeah, and so because he's not as good as he used to be. He's
Not even close.
He's averaging like 22 or 23.
No, it's not even close. And yeah, he. I mean, the reality is, I know he had a great run with Toronto, but he sat out a big chunk of the regular season. His best years were in San Antonio before that original injury that soured that entire relationship.
Right.
When he was in San Antonio, he was a two-way terror and like really a decisive player. And then, again, Toronto, he's amazing during the playoffs, but regular season was indifferent. And in the Clippers, he's just been one injury after another.
Now speaking of the San Antonio Spurs, what do you think about Wemby?
I like Wemby. I mean, he is a purity of purpose guy. He is here to be as great a basketball player as he can be. And there are bumps in the road now. There's going to be some bad games or whatever. But I think what I love about him is that I don't think that bothers him.
Right.
I think he understands that, and he's not put off by it. As much hype and expectation is, I don't think he spends a lot of time beating himself up about not reaching some level that the media might have for him.
Right.
I think he's realistic in that I'm learning every night.
Right.
And I'm going to have some bad ones, and I'm damn sure going to have some good ones. And that, I'm not here to be the best player in the world right now.
Right.
I'm here to maybe be that in 3 to 4 years. And I think that's the right place to be. I think that's what you saw like from a guy like Giannis when he came into the league. And Giannis came in with way less hype and arguably ability at that time than Wemby currently has.
Right.
But I think that the purity of purpose, and we criticize like the way Harden approaches the game, the way Poole approaches it, embrace the way Wemby is approaching this.
Right. Now, what's weird about at least watching these games early on, it's almost like his teammates aren't looking for him in the way that you would think they would look for him.
Yeah.
And he's not he is not a wing. He's not a wing or guard player who can play big. He's a big that can play wing or guard, and I think he's doing it the opposite way. So if he would on the break he run straight down the middle, he'd get an extra 8 points a game.
Yeah.
If and then pop out when they try to put somebody smaller but faster on him and then work his way through that way.
Yeah, and I think that is like when I say like learning every night, like when I watch him in the summer league, the brief appearance he made, like he has a high level of skill. What he doesn't have is a defined game.
Right.
And I think when we're talking about him learning every night, it's starting to learn like where do I need to be on the floor to maximize my skill set.
Right.
And to a degree, because when you are a versatile guy, it's going to be toggling. There's going to be moments you post up a small guy, and there's going to be moments when you draw another guy away from the basket to an area where he's not comfortable. And he has the skills to do that. What he's got to find is the game and the situation and how to apply that night in, night out, opponent to opponent, and be lethal.
Right.
And that's what he's learning.
Right. It's the disease of excess because he can just do so much.
Yeah.
As opposed like like if you're looking for him to be like this scorer, then the best bet is for him to find an area on the floor where he's able to operate the most and get to that area.
Yeah. But that every high level scorer in this league operates from spots.
Right.
They have spots that they want to get to.
Right.
And when they get to those spots, they're lethal.
Right.
And so that is almost by definition high level scoring.
Right.
And he's in the process of finding that.
Figuring out. And that's kind of like my grand point is because it just feels like he's feeling his way through and it's like Pop is allowing it as opposed to get him the ball. He's the star.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if Pop is just doing that to kind of string him along to get him to a point.
I think Pop is a long view guy. I think it's a discovery process.
Okay.
And I think that if Pop was kind of be like heavy handed, okay, we're gonna run this set, we're gonna get Wemby the ball here. And I think Pop's smart enough to know like Wemby doesn't even know those spots yet.
Right.
We're gonna find them by kind of letting the deer out in the woods here to run
right.
around. And we'll find those. And when we find them, then we're going to start that process of honing it down.
Right.
And when you do that, the other thing that's going to happen is you're also going to figure out who are and what type of players are the best players to surround him with.
True.
And then you'll be able to kind of make your draft choices, free agent trade moves, knowing, okay, this is what we need around this guy to maximize him. But I do think he's taken a long view of like, yeah, we're going to be a little awkward. We're going to let this guy do what he does, and we're going to figure out what's best.
Right.
And I guarantee you they're doing some like advanced metrics and saying like, hey, when he's doing this, like here's the efficiency versus when he's here. And that's part of the modern game and the modern coaching is you look at data and you make decisions based on it. But I think rather than kind of dictating and make sure we get him these touches, make sure we do this, he's kind of just letting him find the game. And I think it's not the most pragmatic thing to do right now to maybe get results, but I do think it's the best way to develop him as an individual.
That's a good perspective. What about Chet?
To be honest, I've not seen Chet play as many games. I've watched a lot more Spurs games. But I think he's, number one, he's healthy, which is great because he wasn't that last year. He's a super talented kid. I think he's on the right track, and I think he's in a great situation with OKC and playing with Shea and Giddey and some other talented guys. I don't think, in a weird way, he has a different pressure because I think OKC's not a contending team, but they should be a good playoff team.
Right.
And I think he has greater pressure to fit in and to make this team work now. And so they're really doing two different things.
But I think it's easier for Chet because obviously he's playing with better players.
Yeah.
In their established players to an extent, so they're not trying to like make a career. So it in his in his what would he say? They're not trying to make a career at the expense of him.
Right. You don't have guys out there that are just like, I got to get my shots up because I got to get a bag or whatever. There is a team calibration, a team structure there. There's a pecking order, and Chet is fitting into that. So yeah, I agree. And again, Shea's a top 10, 15 guy in the whole league. He's comfortable in what he is. He's not out here trying to do stuff.
Right.
And he can be magnanimous, like play with Chet, and you help him grow.
And that's the only thing unfortunate about Wemby is he's playing with a bunch of guys who feel like they're bettering their chances by looking out for themselves. When in reality they probably aren't. They probably won't have a job outside of the 3 years that they'll probably get.
Yeah.
Figuring it out here.
Yeah. No. I agree. I mean, there's just a lot of kind of misfit guys trying to do different stuff, and it's a process, and the process is going to weed probably the majority of those guys out. But the other thing, you'll probably, even though it doesn't look good right now, there will probably be, I would say, maybe two guys on that roster that do find some long-term roles around Wemby. Maybe not as starters or second bananas, but that they're good fits and they understand how to play with them. So there is a process going on there, and I do think at the end of the day, OKC's much further to contention or winning than San Antonio, but I think both groups are going about it the right way for where they are.
Right. I think the league will figure out how to make sure that San Antonio is competitive.
Yes, they will.
And I think OKC is going to be competitive, and so that might be the clash for not this year, next year, the year after that, but that fourth year they'll be like powerhouses.
And it could be the thing too with OKC. They had all that talent before, and then they let Harden go, and it just kind of lingered. It never amounted to anything. I would be curious, and I think it's the same ownership, and I think it's still Sam Presti. If they feel that they've got a real nucleus here, do they go all in, whatever it takes to keep it together? Almost with the idea that we screwed this up, 10 years ago. We're not going to let that happen again.
I think so, because they already angling towards that angle.
Yeah,
they already showing those guys with the Kevin Durant, Westbrook, Harden guys, and they putting them side by side and saying. So they already angling towards that, and I think that they all have, well, not all, because I think Chet is the guy with the ego, and so and that's not a bad thing. I think that Shai is more able to accept that it's a lot of star power, and I think right now Giddey is just happy to kind of be playing well.
Yeah.
And so as long as they keep that kind of attitude, because it's going to be one ego. It's just you can't have three egos.
They got to grow together.
Right.
Like, even if they do, I mean, things aren't always perfect with like Steph, Clay, and Draymond, I'm sure.
Right.
But they've grown together in this, and it becomes like a family. Okay, we could be pissed at each other for a day or two, but we're not going to let it affect our play longer than that. I mean, that becomes the challenge in front of these teams, as far as that goes. And again, you can't help but think of Shea and then the Clippers.
Right.
Because he came to OKC in the Paul George trade, and now you've got this top 10, top 12 player who – what would that have looked like right now?
Yeah,
with
they
Kawhi and some other people.
Yeah, they kind of lucked out because imagine if well, it all depends because Kawhi couldn't stay healthy, but if Shea, even if you built around, they should have just built around Shea.
Yeah, no, it's the
thing. And they would, because now OKC not letting him go.
Oh yeah, no, not at all.
And when you compare them to Golden State, Golden State's a little different because Draymond and Clay are very much specialists.
Yeah.
So they never see themselves as above Steph.
Right. Because
it's just not reasonable. Like Steph is a once in a lifetime generational talent who would have been Steph anywhere. Probably not as dominant as far as winning championships, but he would have still been Steph other places. So in OKC, they're not specialists. They are all individually great, or they have potential to all be individually great.
Yeah. I mean, Shea's great, and the other two guys, it's potential to rise. And so, no, I mean, there's great things ahead for OKC. I think that they're doing things the right way, and I hope if it comes down to making a decision to spend the money to keep a young, talented core together, they don't make the same mistake twice.
I would hope not. And I think the league would like to have. This might sound like a crazy take, but I think the league would like to have an American-born white hope.
For sure. Why? Know who else would want that? American white people.
American white people.
And again, it goes for playing in the American heartland of Oklahoma.
Yeah.
I mean, for sure.
It writes itself, man.
Yeah,
it writes
absolutely,
itself.
Absolutely.
So I think the league will do its due diligence to make sure that those two teams, because it's just a good story for 10 years.
And it's a story that kind of perked its head up in a little bit different fashion. But
Right.
But this week, I think Paul Pierce said, Jason Tatum is the best American player in the league.
And wording it that way is crazy.
But it's true.
It is.
I mean, you look at Jokic is international, Luka, Embiid, although he's eligible now to play for Team USA, he's Cameroonian. And so, and then some people say, kind of responded and said, well, what about Anthony Edwards? And maybe he's that guy.
Right.
And we, Steph is still here. But it's a really interesting thing to consider that, like, not only are we arguably starved for a American-born white star, like, even just an American-born player
American-born star
is not necessarily a top 3 to 5 guy in the league by definition.
Right, because the top 15 guys there's probably 5 or 4 Americans.
Yeah, I mean, maybe 50. I'm not 100%. I mean, I know you'll have Jokic, Embiid, Luka, and Giannis are way. I mean, they're up in the absolute top tier of this. And then again, you go Steph, Tatum, Edwards, LeBron, and then how do you evaluate certain guys? It gets a little funky.
Yeah, but it gets kind of weird. I mean, because even Kyrie's technically Australian.
Technically, and Shea is Canadian.
Yeah, so
and we just spent a segment saying he's in the top 10 or 12 guys. So yeah, it's an international game for sure, and to see. The growth of the game is great for the NBA, but it also presents a challenge. And it circles back to my point that, like, I still want to see, and I know the U.S. is supposed to be loading up for the Olympics.
Right.
I hope everybody else loads up.
Right.
Because that World Championship that happened this past year was not. It was pretty diluted.
Right.
I mean, a lot of big international guys did not play.
Right. But that's always they never play in that.
Right. But I'm looking for the Olympics, and I hope that we load up, but I hope everybody else does, and let's have a hell of a tournament.
But it's also with that, even if they load up, they're not as good as a loaded American team.
Yes and no, not top to bottom. But when you figure that there's one ball and only 5 guys on the court at a time,
right,
it can become a little different.
And those guys have played together since they were kids.
Yeah, I mean, I would if I was betting money, if I bet anything of value, I would bet on a fully loaded U.S. team to win. But it would not be ridiculous to see them potentially get beat. But here's my other point in this is, like, it's great for basketball because there'll be other games that are amazing, not just the U.S. games. You look at maybe a Serbia-Greece game or France and whoever. Like, these games are going to be fun to watch.
Right.
And I come from the soccer background where you look at that World Cup and it's like this is a hell of a thing to watch.
That's true. And even going back to the league, if it gets too diverse, it'll start to kind of maybe push the American fans out of the league, and it'll be more like international. So I don't think the league wants that either. No,
you're right. There's a point there. You don't want to go overboard where you feel, and to be honest, like, the NBA is it is a thing. It is potentially polarizing. It is the blackest of the professional sports.
True.
And that alone kind of somehow challenges, insecure white fandom.
Right.
That's why they would cling to a guy like Chet.
Right.
And
that's also in a lot of ways why they cling to international stars, because they don't, even though you have Embiid and Giannis, they don't identify Giannis as a black athlete.
Right.
So,
right.
And they even brand him the Greek freak.
Right. Yeah.
Even though he's not really Greek, he just was born and raised in Greece.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
So he's not like the Greek freak. He's still an African freak. He's still like an African freak.
Yeah.
But they market it that way, so it's like you feel it doesn't connect as
it's by design.
Right.
It is by design, And I mean go back to Allen Iverson,
right,
and when he was with cornrows and tattoos and
right,
whatever. There was like almost a desperation to sort of like clean this up
Right.
and have people have a dress code coming to games and for commercial reasons.
Yeah.
You know, and that's
They
the
made him
thing.
wear the sleeve, and they made him
Yeah.
do all this weird stuff.
Yeah. I mean, there's an undeniable fact. I mean, our country is defined by race.
Right.
And when things are deemed to be too black, too ghetto, too
Yeah.
whatever, the commercial minded people get nervous
Right.
that they're going to lose the beloved, you know, white base of fans.
Right. And it's always interesting that it's not very hidden.
No.
It's like very
Well, I mean, literally, like
Yeah.
you have Allen Iverson, and the league starts making like dress code.
you have to wear a
policies
suit like
and things like this. It's like
You
whatever.
have to-
Yeah, I still remember like you know, on the football side of things, I remember Cam Newton. He came out of
Right.
the college as the Heisman Trophy winner and top pick, but his team at the time was very big on like, you know, you're going to appear in a suit and
Right.
you know, every time you're not like actually playing.
Right.
They made very conscious, deliberate decisions to make him as kind of white marketable as
Right.
possible under the circumstances.
Right.
And you know, that was part of that package of getting him to the top pick
Right.
and all that follows after.
And because you remember when they rolled out the dress code around the Allen Iverson time, the literal verbiage of that was when they said what's the dress code, they said if you would wear it to a club, don't wear it to the game.
That's right.
And they said that openly and just like clear, like
Yeah. That
so,
is.
so it's like you like
We know what's going on here.
it's like not
Yeah.
even real. It's not even. That's the crazy thing about like mainstream America is like sometimes they just openly racist and it's unapologetic.
Well, that's why. I mean, when I say that our country's defined by race,
Right.
I literally mean that in that so many ways we kind of like blatantly do these things, but they're blatant, but they're so well accepted
Right.
that like it just is what it is.
Right.
And so that's the definition. It's like, okay, yeah, we're gonna don't wear the club gear to the game. Like,
Right.
okay, all right. Yeah,
Like,
we all
you-
know what that means.
You ever seen the clip of David Bowie? He's talking to
I recently, I think it's talking about like the videos that are played on MTV.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, the MTV reporter. He was like, "You guys don't play black artists here," and he was like, and the reporter literally said, "There may be some white kids from the Midwest region of America who'd be afraid to see Prince on TV."
Right. To which David Bowie, to his credit, said,
He's
like,
like-
imagine what that would mean to, like, like having him available
Right.
to a 17-year-old black kid in
Right.
the country. You know, there's two sides of that.
Right.
It's
He's
just
like-
crazy.
It's funny because David Bowie's kind of like, do you hear yourself? Like, do you hear what you're saying?
Exactly. No, that was fun. And, dude, that had to have been, what, 30 years ago, if
Yeah.
not more?
I mean, that was probably 40 years ago because that was like right around like after Thriller.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so-
I mean, that's 40 years ago. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
that's crazy, right?
But it is like so many times you see like the lack of change, the lack of any
That's true.
demonstrable progress. Like I thought like I don't know if you saw the movie Black Klansman.
Yeah,
I thought like Spike Lee, the way he presented that was back to his absolute best. But like the way he connected, like at the time, the Charlottesville near
Right.
the end of the movie with kind of that those really super corny, blatantly racist like speeches from like the 30s, I guess,
Yeah.
or 40s. It's like, no, we're really close to the same place.
right.
Like we can tell ourselves there's progress, and we can cherry pick a few things and say it's okay.
Right.
But fundamentally, we're still looking at this the same exact way.
Right. It's done that exact. That's why I was interested to see that quote from Paul Pierce.
Yeah.
Because he didn't mean to say it in the way that it came out, but it's like, we're still there. We're still there.
Exactly.
But I think we covered everything with basketball.
We did. we beat that dead horse.
Now before we get out of here, so you guys do sports in Mayhem.
Yes, we're
On
always
this
here
show.
for the mayhem.
Yeah, so I was skimming Instagram, and I seen this guy doing an interview and getting interviewed, and the headline or the subtitle was Will Smith's best friend and former assistant says that he walked in on him having relations with Dwayne Martin.
And what was the first thing that I thought about? I haven't seen Dwayne Martin since the "I'll Make Love to You" video from Boyz II Men. Like, what's he been up to? Apparently sucking cock. I don't know. Like, what's going on?
They say he was giving it to Will.
Oh, okay, it's giving it to
Will. The guy said it sounded like a murder scene in there. That's what the guy said.
But okay, I can't say I was like surprised or like shocked.
That's always been like the rumor because you joke about like not seeing Dwayne Martin, but Dwayne Martin, whenever you have seen him over the years after that, of course he was married to Tisha Campbell Martin, Gina from Martin, and from the show Martin. And he also had a sitcom, and the sitcom was basically loosely about Will Smith's like married, like getting divorced and then married someone else. That's basically what the show is like.
Oh, what was it called? I don't know.
It was called All of Us.
Okay.
So it was produced by Will Smith, and it was essentially about a guy who got a divorce but had a kid with his ex-wife and married someone else or dated somebody else with that kid.
Okay.
And so, but he's also like known as like Will Smith's like best friend, but he's always around, but he doesn't do anything.
Right. Okay.
You know what I mean? He doesn't do anything. He was on Kevin Hart's TV show, Real Husbands of Hollywood.
Okay.
But he's mostly known as Will Smith's friend who doesn't do anything. He just like he's just around.
Just around. Okay.
He was married to Gina, and he doesn't do anything.
Is he still married to Gina?
Nah, they're divorced.
Oh, okay. Long time or?
It's been a while now, probably like 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
It's been a while. So it's always those rumblings that was what that is. Because if you have this guy that just hangs around, does nothing.
That's kind of like Whitney and her friend Robin.
That's true.
Yeah.
And it came out that Robin was there to satisfy Whitney's desires.
Right.
In some ways.
Yeah.
But this might go down a rabbit hole. But when you look at like Will Smith like 6'3", big strong dude, you would think that he's the pitcher.
I guess, yeah. I don't know. I didn't put that much thought into it.
That's just how I think. Like,
well, how big is Dwayne Martin?
I don't know. I just pause this whole conversation. Because when you go down that rabbit hole, you think like if you're catching, you're less masculine, or is that cancel offense to say like you're less masculine if you're the one catching?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the protocol is there. Well, I mean, okay, so I mean, I would say that. I mean, there are gay couples where if you look at the two people, one of them projects a much more sort of effeminate outward demeanor, and then I would just assume that correlates to the bedroom positioning as well. But I don't know.
No, that's first of all, that's cliche. They're not all one. It's not all one feminine guy and then one manly.
No. I'm saying on occasion you do see that.
Yeah, that's the idea. So like it's more than often.
Yeah, but you also potentially see a dynamic where just two guys. Nobody's projecting outwardly effeminate in any way.
Right. So I used to work with these two guys. Right. It was two young guys. One guy, they were a couple.
Okay.
The one guy was very like feminine. He was the younger one. He was very feminine. He was short. He acted exactly. He didn't act. One thing about like the effeminate like man who's like super flamboyantly gay, they actually don't act like women. They act like a hyperbolic woman. so it's like over the top.
Okay, I get you. Yeah, I'm with you.
And the boyfriend was like very masculine, like one of the guys talk about sports. Hey, talk like you wouldn't know he was gay, but he was openly like bisexual or whatever the case may be.
Right.
But don't ask me how I know this. I'm just very inquisitive, so it was interesting their dynamic because he was so like manly, and he wasn't like sometimes those guys would be like overly manly because they want to overcompensate when they're around a bunch of guys.
Right.
But he was a guy who just liked to hang out with guys, not because he wanted to like date them or anything. He just is like a regular manly guy.
Right.
But he was the one who was the catcher.
Okay. So when you actually asked him about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's why like I didn't like I honestly like when I heard the story Will Smith Dwayne I didn't make any I didn't even consider who was doing what to who.
But it's like the only reason this sounds crazy. People gonna see this like why you even care? It's just that when the guy is describing that he walked in on them, he's saying he blowing Will Smith's back out, and that kind of threw me completely off guard because I'm like, at least you be the one blowing the back out if that's different.
Well, but okay, we got to flip this at another level. Is that like if you really look at it, like Will Smith is like the oppressed person in his marriage, and so like that may extend to how he interacts with others.
And maybe Jada gives it to him too.
Could be.
I
don't think she gives him anything but a fucking hassle. But
you don't think so? Because
the part I wanted to go to was the very weird thing, like where I saw like a little clip where she's like, I guess some reporters are chasing her talking about the story, and she's like, "We're suing." Like, y'all aren't even on the same team anymore.
Like, what is going on? Are you guys together? You're not together?
Yeah, like, why do you care?
What are you talking about, man?
Yeah, you're suing.
And I saw that clip, and then my mind went to this place. She running around doing interviews. She's getting into this like SUV. She's living like a great life, and I'm thinking like, who's paying for this? Because she hasn't done anything since Hawthorne.
Exactly. I thought Jason's lyric, but
and you're not getting residual royalties from Jason's lyric.
not big time.
So if y'all like not together,
if what's his name? If Terrence Howard only made $12K.
Yeah, come on, man. I know you're not making a lot of money off that book. I was just like, how does man? Will can't catch a break, man.
No, I can't.
You can't even keep his personal life secret.
Apparently, you can catch something else though. But okay, here's the thing. Like, I also thought, like, okay, what are you gonna sue? Like, basically, it's a defamation or a libel suit. So when you get into this, you're gonna sue this person. Number one, they probably don't have much money. So, assuming you got a judgment, it's something you'll be trying to chase forever. Now, number two, what is the benefit of suing them? Because basically, all this is going to then have to be like hashed out in depositions and court. Like, is that the direction you really want to go?
If it's not true. So, like, if you're saying, like, I'm going to sue, you're saying that this is not true.
Well, the only way to prevail in a libel suit is to prove that it's not true. And if you're the party filing the suit, you have the burden of proving that.
Look at my anus. It's clear as fine.
Like, so I just don't understand the upside in that. And again, we live in, like, a world, and particularly, like, the celebrities live in a world, like, is that going to affect his career in any? Does anybody really?
No,
care
because people already assume that he was at least pitching.
Right. So it's like, how does that impact you? And then when you go to like prove damage in like a libel or defamation suit, you have to prove. I mean, you could prove that the person defamed you or was liable, but then you also have to prove what is your damage.
Right.
And how the heck is he going to prove damage?
Now.
Where his career is right now, where his public persona is, like, how can you kind of damage or hurt that anymore?
That's also maybe it could be an NDA that wasn't followed.
Okay, so you're haggling over an NDA.
Yeah, but
where does that go?
Yeah, because this guy obviously who did this interview Because why would you do this interview? And
maybe he got pissed off about something.
Yeah, like
you never can. He might have like felt slighted by Will about
because maybe they have a thing.
Could be. It could be anything. Maybe Will owed him some back wages for something that he did or didn't do. When people get upset, they'll lash out in whatever they've got. That's
why. Honestly, if you know that about me and I'm Will Smith, I'm going to make sure that you don't exist.
Yeah, kill him.
Hey.
No, but I also think like I don't know. I'm not Will Smith, but like to a degree, like you've got a million moving parts in your life. Every day somebody's saying something about you, and this and that, and it's like it's quite possible that you kind of forget about this guy in some way, and until he chirps up with. Here's the thing. Maybe the guy's been reaching out to Will for whatever, maybe a loan, maybe whatever, and Will's not getting back to him, and then finally he's like, hey, fuck this guy. I'm going to go, and talk about this.
Right.
And there you go. Now I got his attention.
Because you know what's fucked up about this is now it doesn't matter if it's true or not.
That's what I'm saying. Like it's out. It doesn't matter. But I look at it maybe at night. I don't think it impacts Will Smith at all.
Right.
Like he's been publicly embarrassed before. Like again, there are a handful of people that maybe have speculated he's already been involved in this type of activity.
Right.
And if he is, who cares?
Right.
Like whatever. If he enjoys Dwayne,
especially like people Will Smith is at a level in his life or in his stardom where he literally can do anything as long as it's not illegal and no one would care.
That's what I'm saying. Like you're at a point where it just doesn't matter.
Right.
Like it's not going to impact your career. Nobody's going to pull a movie offer because this was brought up in public.
And Will Smith doesn't doesn't comment on anything.
Yeah, why this?
So for him to be like, we're going to sue, it's like, wait a minute.
Jada
has said crazy things about you.
Yeah, why is this like pressing a button that you have to react to? It's weird.
It is. It's so bizarre. Out of all the things that he's been in the news for, and people making like these long dissertations and these stories about why he slapped Chris Rock. He misses his dad. His dad was like they coming up with all these stories and ideas of why it happened. He's radio silent.
But this
he's like
we're running
gonna
the courthouse. We're drafting a complaint now.
And then Jada responds. That's like at this point it's like. I don't know what to believe, but
I felt some kind of way about her response. I'm just like, you've done enough. Just sit out of this one way or the other. Just stand down.
Because without Jada doing this whole tour for the last 24 months, this is just a tabloid rumor.
Right.
Even if it's on camera with this, because the person he did the interview with is basically like people consider like a tabloid person.
Right. So yeah, not a super credible.
Yeah.
Story,
so we literally ignore it and just be a funny story, but with Jada and this whole thing and the memoir and her doing all these interviews, because Jada did all the smoke.
Yeah.
What are you doing? You just doing shit. You haven't shot a basketball or any sports related anything. Why are you doing all the smoke?
Yeah.
So like you just was on a world tour about your memoir, telling where Will Smith's birthmarks are. You telling every private, solitary detail about his life. And so then this is just an add-on.
Maybe she's salty because she decided not to include this. And now it looks bad.
Like, damn, I should have told you.
It undercuts the credibility of her memoir.
Damn, I should have told him about Dwayne.
Yeah. You wrote this whole memoir revealing all this intimate stuff, but you left out this one big thing.
Now she's coming out with a sequel now.
Part 2 coming out.
Where there's a will, there's a way.
That's right. I don't know. Yeah, just a funny story. But now I'm very much in the lane that when you attain a certain level of stardom or celebrity, like nothing short of like illegal conduct bothers you.
Right.
It just literally doesn't matter. Like, and I honestly, if I'm arguing the defense of this case, I'm saying there's no damage.
Right.
We'll say, okay, we'll concede the point. Maybe this isn't true.
Right.
But prove damage because you can't.
Right. Especially now we're in a place where like your sexuality is not really a big deal. Especially like people kind of assume that he was I found out that George Jefferson was gay.
George Jefferson.
He was closeted gay.
Moving on up.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I only bring that up to say, if we're at the point now where that's not even news, like
right.
people don't care.
Yeah, that's the thing. It literally doesn't matter. And then even in the okay, let's just spin this to a whole different place and say, let's say that you had like an ostensibly good couple. Let's say like Denzel and Paul,
right,
and like they're nobody's saying anything negative,
right,
and all of a sudden somebody comes out and says, oh, Denzel Washington's been having a gay relationship on the side of his marriage for 10 years.
Yeah, if you'd be like, yo, the guy who played Willis from Good Time or from Different Strokes is blowing Denzel Washington's back out, that would break my heart.
But part of it is because his brand is to a degree, he's great acting talent, but it's also this family.
Yeah, this family man.
But the Will and Jada thing, they've literally put themselves out there.
Yeah, now we won't put anything past Will Smith.
That's what I'm saying. Like you're already a train wreck on the relationship side, and again, it's not going to affect your entertainment career.
Right. 8 years ago, it'd be like, oh, really? Now it's just like, makes sense.
Yeah, back when J. Cole was dropping bars.
Yeah, who would have thought, man?
that bar didn't age well.
Yeah. Oh man, Will, praying for you, man. My heart goes out to you.
Just don't go forward with the lawsuit. I just don't see that helping anything.
Yeah, I don't think we won't need any more, man. We don't need any more details.
His Dwayne Martin comments.
Yeah. Oh my.
Did he?
I know.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm curious.
Because that's what's fucked up. Like Dwayne Martin was just somewhere minding his business.
I'm sure he was.
And you just like, yeah, he was blowing his back out. We didn't need this.
That is kind of, we do. The first thing you look at it from Will Smith perspective, but if this is not true and you're Dwayne Martin.
It's like, what did I do to deserve this?
That's funny too. Yeah, he's just like, I'm just cruising through my day.
Now he got to answer questions, but Jazzy, nobody's doing nothing with him, but Jazzy Jeff is out still active.
Right.
Jazzy Jeff, they gonna ask Jazzy Jeff, did you know about this?
Jazzy Jeff. That's great.
It's all bad, man.
That is.
Well, Pink, man, I think we covered all the bases, man.
We've covered all the bases.
Especially baseball.
Will's
a pitcher.
Oh, okay.
No, he's a catcher.
Yeah, you don't even know what sport you're.
Yeah, I'm so discombobulated. I didn't expect to go down that rabbit hole. This is all being recorded, and so this was just for entertainment. I didn't have a conversation with a gay couple. What else did I incriminate myself about?
I think that was about it.
Okay.
Yeah, you'll survive just like Will.
Yeah, Will. Cover your ass. I mean, take care of yourself.
Whatever that entails.
And each other.
All right. You've been on the bench with Bubba and Pink. We'll be back next Wednesday.
Peace and love.
Yes.